Does Return to Zombie Island live up to the expectations set by the amazing Zombie Island? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is that there was probably zero chance that this would have ever lived up to the original for a couple of reasons that I'll talk about in this video. AKA, please don't click off now that I've given away the answer to the title of the video. Return to Zombie Island is the second film in the little series of sequels to old Scooby-Doo works, the first being The Curse of the 13th Ghost. If you watch our channel, you might have seen our video about the movie and our feelings about it. In my opinion, that had lower expectations because while The 13th Ghost had its fans, Zombie Island was on a different level. Zombie Island had all the passion, all the marketing, and subsequently, all the love. Some credit it with being the thing that brought Scooby-Doo back to the mainstream, which makes sense considering that Zombie Island was the first thing that came from the Scooby-Doo series in like 6 years. Personally, I love the movie. It's such a highlight of my childhood and is definitely my favorite of the 4 direct-to-DVD movies that came out and probably my favorite Scooby-Doo work ever. I still love my Hex Girls though. The movie had a lot of heart and it wasn't afraid to do things differently. It was darker and more serious than what we were used to, and making the choice to have real monsters was a great choice. Adding that up the ante and created an added layer of intrigue to the world of Scooby-Doo. And that's not talking about the atmosphere of Moonscar Island and the characters themselves that help make the world feel more lived in. And with all these things, you have a damn good movie. Keep all this in mind and you can see why the new Zombie Island movie was set up for failure. Let me put it like this. When I see a movie called Scooby-Doo x WWE and John Cena, I'm going in with adjusted expectations. When I see John Cena jump in front of a boulder and stop it, I keep watching and accept it as not being completely stupid because that is what I expected. But when I see Return to Zombie Island, I hope and pray that I'm watching a movie that can even come close to live up to his namesake. You get what I mean? Now with that said, this was not a good movie. And not in a didn't meet my expectations way. More like The 13th Ghost is a better movie than this. Or like let me go watch John Cena stop a boulder again. But I should actually go into detail. And what better way to do that than to summarize the plot in a way that you totally couldn't get from Wikipedia. Of course that will mean spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet because you haven't made the trek to Walmart, then just be warned. I think an important thing to mention in relation to the story is that while this is a sequel to Zombie Island, obviously, this is also a sequel to The Curse of the 13th Ghost. Well, I mean, they don't really mention much from the movie, and actually they only really draw from the intro of that movie. The rest of it might as well not have happened. Anyway, in the 13th G, the gang is forced to stop being a mystery team, which is enforced by the sheriff. Because of this, Fred has to sell the mystery van, and that's all the context you need. It's funny because in Return to Zombie Island, Fred is obsessed with the mystery van, but there was no indication of this in the 13th Ghost. But that might have been because he was too distracted by trying to accept his role as a cheerleader. Also, there was surprisingly only one retcon in the story, which was that the gang are teenagers now. So Daphne being at the news station and being a part of all those shows was a part of a school project. Everything else from the old movie remains unchanged, which is kind of impressive. Okay, now for the movie. We start off with a montage of catching monsters that ends with Fred losing the mystery van, but that all just turns out to be Fred daydreaming. But it is weird that Fred just kind of passes out in the middle of getting food at a malt shop. They talk about how it sucks that they can't solve mysteries anymore, and Shaggy and Scooby make the rest promise that they will not attempt to solve any more mysteries because Shaggy and Scoob are sick of it, I tell ya. This will turn out to be a low IQ move that just makes the next 30 minutes a lot more annoying. Anyway, needing a vacation, Shaggy entered a contest on the Elvira show, shout out to the Mistress of the Dark, to win a paid trip to an island resort. He wins, and things are immediately suspicious because it specifies that he could bring 3 friends and a pet. They go, and while drawing parallels to the boat ride in the original, we get our first letdown seeing that the ferryman isn't Jock, and is a pirate for some reason. Also, they start doing this annoying gag where Velma and Daphne would see something weird and refuse to point it out because that would be breaking their promise to Shaggy and Scooby somehow. Like, I don't get how pointing out extremely obvious facts is solving a mystery. They get to the island and we get introduced to 2 more no-names who say get out a couple of times, but when does that mean anything? On the way to the hotel, they show this cat creature hanging around that looks very similar to the felines from the first movie in that they both look kind of cat-esque. Now they get to the hotel and okay, the hotel looks straight up like the building in Zombie Island. It should also be mentioned that the island is called Moonstar Island because this is too obvious to be the mystery, right? Daphne thinks the same and goes into a flashback about what happened in Zombie Island. It's the same shots in the new animation style, so it was interesting to see. Even though this might be the best part of the movie by merit of it being clips from the superior movie, it doesn't really make sense in the narrative of this movie. She's sharing this flashback with the gang like they don't already know it, and Shaggy even makes fun of this. But just because you're aware of it doesn't mean you can keep doing it, especially since they didn't do anything with that awareness. After meeting characters who look very similar to characters from Zombie Island, Shaggy and Scooby get accosted by some rude zombies, and while they are begging the others to figure out what's going on, they still refuse, and I have no idea why. It takes zombies shambling their way to the hotel for them to finally do something, and even then, it was because Shaggy and Scooby tore up that contract. They trapped the zombies, and the big reveal is that this was all for a movie. The zombies are actors and their host is the director. There's even a fake mystery van, but some of the reasoning was off. Like, the jock lookalike was obviously an actor because he can quote Shakespeare, which means every middle school student is secretly an actor or something. Anyway, the director wanted to do the movie after seeing Velma's blog and her post about Zombie Island. Side note, they kind of made the Reluctant Werewolf canon, so I fully expect to see a sequel to that sometime in the future. It's at this point where I started to check out because, I kid you not, they spent about 15 minutes of this movie to work on the movie in the movie. Then more Capu attack along with a bunch of cast that kind of derails things. When the gang tries to escape, the director burns the boat to the ground because he wants to finish the film. It's funny because he absolutely lost his mind here, but they don't even mention his sudden descent into madness after this. They head back to the hotel, and while hiding, they end up in the cave that was seen in the first movie. You know, the one where the villains melted to death. There are a bunch of holes here, and that tips off everyone to what's going on. They set a trap for the cats, which involved the gang looking like zombies, and catch them, revealing them to be the characters that didn't show up after they were introduced. They were looking for the treasure of the island and were trying to scare off people so they could search for it in peace. They didn't get hauled off to jail for scaring people, I guess, and the cats on the island reveal where the actual treasure is. The director takes all the gold and pieces out, and the gang is just happy to have solved the mystery again. They have a hurrah and pledge to get the real mystery van back. Oh, and we get a look at the Catman that wasn't one of the thieves because he probably is an actual Catman. Oh, and Velma once again tries to hand-wave the supernatural elements from the previous movie, which is by far the worst part of this movie. She says swamp gas was the reason for the zombies, like that's Q or some shit, and that the previous cats were thieves too, like that somehow explains them literally melting. But whatever, that's the end, and maybe now you can kind of see what my problems were with this movie. A big problem was that there wasn't an intriguing mystery to rope us along the movie. Even now, I can't really think of a good mystery for a sequel to Zombie Island, so if you have some cool ideas, let us know in the comments below. Still, there had to be something better than what we got, because what we got felt a little too lazy and would have been more fitting for a TV special. Like, the thieves reveal felt straight up like something out of an episode of West New Scooby-Doo or something, but there was no real way to tell what would happen because we don't see the cave until the end and for a little bit in the middle. And don't even get me started on that whole movie in a movie twist. It's like the writer knew he wanted to have this movie in a movie idea for Return to Zombie Island, but didn't know how to make it make sense. Like, what kind of guerrilla filming is not telling your main actors they're being filmed for a movie? Background characters and non-main characters, fine, but not the driving force of the movie. It would be borderline impossible to predict how they would act.
You ruined everything! Everything!
And then there were the things like why there was only one stunt double when the whole gang should have had one, and what was the deal with that ramp that was for jumping over the hotel? Though I guess that was part of the joke. One of the more annoying parts of this twist was that it removed the zombie element from Zombie Island completely, which is kind of impressive really. The other problem I had with this movie was the same problem I had with the Curse of the 13th Ghost, but even worse somehow. That's right, it's the characterization of the characters. Fred is just as obsessive as he is in other things, but this time it's for the mystery van. This would be fine, but he doesn't have any arc. He stays obsessed throughout and nothing changes that. At least in 13th Ghost, he stops being sad about not leading and realizes it's okay to cheer on the rest. They gave us a relief from his craziness that we don't get in Return to Zombie Island. As for Velma, well, we all hoped she wouldn't be as smug as she was in 13th Ghost, but we were all wrong. It got worse. See, she's pretty much the same, but at least in the 13th G, she wasn't there for the original show, so she didn't know what Shaggy, Scooby, and Daphne went through. Here, she has no excuse. She saw it all and still denies that it could be possibly supernatural at all, which I feel is completely out of character for her. Just because she's all about the mysteries doesn't mean she actively rejects anything that seems too far-fetched for her. It's not funny, it's just incredibly annoying. This is also probably the best time to mention that I'm still not a fan of Kate Micucci as Velma. I love me some Kate, but she doesn't really work here. An underrated problem with the movie was the music. I forgot how awesome the score was in Zombie Island, and by comparison, the music in Return was extremely lackluster. It never set the mood right, and even in the chase scenes, it didn't do much to create tension. I know the music for chase scenes are usually lighthearted in Scooby-Doo, but this really felt like they used the wrong music for the scene. As for the rest of the music, it was largely forgettable. As soon as it finished, I forgot about it. Overall, Return to Zombie Island has some big shoes to fill and didn't even bother trying to put the shoe on. The animation was fine, though there was one scene where Scooby literally appeared from nowhere, which funny enough was the biggest laugh I got from the movie. There wasn't a lot to enjoy other than some Easter eggs, and personally, I don't know if I'll come back to rewatch it. I know I'm sounding harsh, so I want you guys to let me know what you thought if you saw it. Am I completely wrong and you enjoyed it, or am I not too far off the mark? Either way, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe because it does mean a whole lot. But before you go digging for cat treasure, have a good day.